So the HP DL380 Gen 6, 7, and 8 are great servers for home labbing, as many people already know. But unlike the Dell counterparts, their fan speeds cannot be controlled manually. You sort of have to rely on BIOS to do its thing, which for most home labbers ends up with servers running way too loud. It is possible to do some sneaky stuff with an Arduino and to basically proxy the PWM signal on the fans. That's the you can't really see it. It's the blue wire in there, and you can proxy it, and you can basically use the Arduino to fake it out. And that's what I was going to do. And then I started doing a little bit more reading, and I discovered that where's the other one? So if you short out pins 4, 5, and 6, which are these back three, so the 1, 2, and 3 would be the ones with the nub side. 4, 5, and 6 are the back three. If you short those all out, it will trick the server into thinking that the fan is there and that everything is fine. In fact, I've just done this with one fan already. If I go here, we can see. So I've done this with fan 1. We can see that it reports fan 1 is at 36%, but as you'll see in a moment, fan 1 doesn't even exist. So my plan is, at least my first attempt, is to short out fans. So here's a fan assembly from another sort of like a almost scrap 380 Gen 8 that I have. And I'm going to remove fans 6, 4, 3, and 1. 2 and 5 are still pretty important because they are used for the CPUs, or they blow directly over the CPUs anyway. I think for my case, I can probably get away with getting rid of the other 4. And if I can't, then I can drop them back in, because what I'm doing, this mod is not actually damaging the fans themselves. This one I've just taken that red bracket off of. So what I'm doing is I have all these machine pin sockets that have just been laying around in a parts bin for a while, and I was hoping I could just short 3 of them together and then plug it on. But these are the typical 0.1 millimeter spacing, or is that right? Maybe it's 0.1 centimeter. It doesn't matter. These are the typical, or maybe it's 0.1 inch. Anyway, the fans are a little bit smaller. Here, if I properly line them up, they're like 20-30% smaller. But what I found is that if you cut the plastic off of them, these here I've got 9 that are just pushed onto another row to hold them together. If you cut all the plastic off of them and then solder a little piece of metal to short them out, then you can push them together a little bit closer than where they're spaced here, and they perfectly fit on the pins on the board. So you can just plug them straight in and fake out the server. So I've got my iron here, nice and hot, and my sacrificial shorting metal. And so I'm going to short these 3 into 3 individual sets of 3, and then we'll go and mount them on the server, and you'll see the effect it has. All right, and just like that, we have 3 janky little 3-pin jumpers. And so now it's time to take them over to the server and hook them up and see what we get. All right, so we are in the server room, and as I showed, here's fan 1's hole, and you can see its little jumper there. So now what I'm going to do is pull out fan 3 here, and what you'll hear is the whole system will ramp up to 100% because fan 3 will have failed. And then we'll swap in our little jumper. I'm going to change hands here. Doing this one-handed is kind of hard. I've got my needle nose pliers, so we're going to fail fan 3. Alright. Fan 3 has failed. the system ramps up. You can see the failure LED, and then, oh boy, I don't have a good grip. Hold on. All right. These aren't quite close enough together. Oh boy. Okay, well I freaked it out pretty bad doing that. That is very hard to do one-handed. And some of these, I think that was actually the worst. This one is the best. You can see how I've got them kind of bent down towards each other. I really should have soldered these closer together, but so that's one. And then I've also got this little guy, but he is also, that top one's kind of splayed out, so I just need to try and push that in. Alright, so I'm going to do this again for fan number 4. I'm going to fail it, pop it out, and then pop in, not bad, and yeah, oh boy, and yeah, I've got my server vertically mounted. I know people have very strong opinions on that. Whatever. I dropped it. Alright, so I took a little bit of wiggling, but you should now see the jumper in fan 4. Now again we have, and for what it's worth, the CPUs I'm running are low wattage CPUs anyway. It's not like these are 140 watt monsters. So, and this server does not run under high load. Plus, the power supplies have fans, and I've added an additional fan onto my RAID card there. So, not too worried. Alright, so, last one, number 6. Alright, fan comes out. Jumper goes in. Look at that. Like a professional. So again, there's our jumper. No fault LEDs. So I'm going to put the baffle and the cover back on this. And I'm going to put it under some load. And then we'll take a look at the thermals. Okay, so it's been about 30 minutes since I pulled out 4 of the fans and jumpered them absent. And here is our current temperature. Let me reload it to get the freshest. System information, temperatures. So down here at ambient, we're reading 24C. For that little closet, that's pretty typical. I've got a couple other machines in there. It usually runs between 19 and like 28, I think is the warmest I've seen it for ambient in there. I usually keep the door open enough. But otherwise, you know, we see drives running mid-30s. That's okay. The CPUs are both at 40, which is perfectly fine. Power supplies are reading at 30, perfectly fine. Exhaust is maybe a little warm, 34, 31, 36, a little bit warm. The RAID card is 56. It always runs hot. That's why I added that additional fan on there. And the onboard RAID is 62. Again, that always runs hot. These two guys are always the spikes. I'm honestly going to add a fan onto the hard drive controller heatsink as well, because it's always a little bit warmer than I would really like, especially given the non-traditional configuration I'm running. But it's safe, and that's the highest I've seen it. I think is 65, and this one maybe got to 62. Really not super worried about those guys, and then everything else is just kind of median. Just not much to worry about, frankly. So, yeah, I'll keep an eye on this, of course, and see how it goes. I definitely do not recommend that anybody do this with anything they care about. This was really just an exercise for giggles. Ultimately, I will be doing the proper little Arduino proxy mod thing. But for the time being, this is kind of fun, and it's pretty cool to see how you can fake the system out. And, again, like I said, we still have the two fans blown right over the processors. The power supplies have their own dedicated fans. And then the external RAID card has its own fan. And then I'm going to be adding a fan for the hard drive controller as well. So, again, if you've gotten this far, you probably have a pretty good sense of how much of an idiot I am, and how much I do not recommend that you do this on anything that you care about. Certainly not anything actually running in production in a commercial environment. But hey, whatever, have fun. Burn your house down. I don't care.